This lesson is on declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory sentences, and this is part one of a four-part series on the forms and functions of sentences. Now, first I want you to know this lesson is a little bit different. This lesson is really about the purposes of sentences. In other words, why the speaker or writer created the sentence. So it's not really about grammar, it's about authors and speakers' intent, but it's related to sentence structure, it's related to punctuation, and so that's why we study it. So first let's look at declarative sentences. To declare is just to say or state something. Declarative sentences always end with a period, and most of, and I mean most, like capital most, like 90-95% of our sentences throughout our entire lives are declarative sentences. You pick up a book and read it, the vast majority of the sentences are going to be declarative sentences. All right, so some examples here, right? I am Sam, she is my sister, bacon and beans taste really good together. These are all simple declarative sentences. And if you watch the series of lessons on sentence structure where we diagram sentences, those are all declarative sentences. Next up, we have interrogative sentences. And to interrogate is to question, right? We interrogate prisoners, we interrogate suspects. If you come home late, your parents might interrogate you. You know, where were you? And these ask a question, and so therefore they end with question marks. One interesting thing about interrogative sentences in English is that the subjects and verbs are reversed, and often the sentence begins with an interrogative pronoun, right? And we looked at those when we studied part of speech earlier in the course. You know, that interrogative pronoun is often an adverb or a direct object within the sentence. So let's look at these ones a little bit more closely, right? Where are my shoes? Are is the predicate. Shoes is actually the subject. Where is this interrogative pronoun that begins the sentence? Same thing here. Why did you eat my pickle sandwich? This one's interesting because the predicate is split. Sandwich is the subject, my, and pickle modify sandwich, and then why is that interrogative pronoun there. Or who stole my Justin Bieber CD? Stole is the predicate. My wonderful CD by the good old Justin Bieber is the subject, and then who is that interrogative pronoun. Next, we're going to look at imperative sentences. And imperative sentences give commands. In fact, the root word in imperative is the root word for emperor, right? Emperors give imperative sentences. They end with periods or exclamation marks, depending on how intense the writer or speaker, which might be you, wants that imperative sentence to be. And in English, you is understood to be the subject, but it may not be in the sentence. In fact, all of the examples here lack the subject you. It's just understood, right? Get me a sandwich, right, would be you get me a sandwich. Or shut up and get me a sandwich, that gets an exclamation mark because it's much harsher and more emphatic, but it's still an imperative sentence. It's actually two imperative sentences. Shut up is the first one. Get me a sandwich is the second one. Take out your planners is also an imperative sentence, and please take out your planners. So even if I start with please and I'm being nice and have a happy tone, it's still an imperative sentence. Finally, exclamatory sentences. This has the same root word as exclamation, as in exclamation mark. And these are used to show surprise, anger, or happiness, and they end with exclamation marks. That's why they're exclamatory sentences. These will be easy to find in someone else's writing. When you're doing the writing, you have to think, do I want this to be exclamatory or not? If you want it to be exclamatory as opposed to declarative, you put in the exclamation mark. If you just want it to be declarative, put in the period. Don't use these. You know, if you're in my class, you're in high school, fortunately, high school students, sometimes freshmen, but fortunately, high school students don't use exclamatory sentences too much. Mainly, I'm talking to you if you're in middle school. And so why are these good to know? Like I said, this is an odd lesson. What's the point of this? The big thing here is punctuation. But it also impacts your reading comprehension, right? If you miss an imperative sentence and you think it's just a simple declarative sentence, you might get confused in your reading. And this also has an impact on your writing and speaking because you should be thinking about situations in which it's inappropriate to use certain types. For example, the academic analytical writing that we do for the most part in high school should be all declarative sentences, no interrogatives, no exclamatories, no imperatives. And those are issues of voice, right? If it's an imperative, you're using that second person voice, which is, as you know, not cool in high school academic writing. Exclamatory writing is just kind of weird tone and style for a straightforward academic analysis. And interrogative sentences ask questions. Once again, they're asking questions of the audience. You don't know who your audience is, so that's why you don't use those in academic writing. And then, in interpersonal writing, you can use interrogative and imperative sentences, unless you're writing to your superior, and then in that case, you wouldn't use imperative sentences, right? I correct students all the time. They'll say, I'm going to tell my mother to pick me up. No. You're going to ask your mother to pick you up. You don't use imperative sentences with your mother. You use interrogative, very polite interrogative sentences with your mother. So, this will help shape your style and your consciousness of your style as a writer. And so that's it. Thanks for watching.